Fontaine, good afternoon. I'm Kristen Achkate. Welcome to APTN National News. Thank you for joining us. Last Thursday, RCMP began a search in a long dormant missing persons case in a small British Columbia community. Stanley Peters Jr. went missing 37 years ago. The cops called it a hit and run. One man went to jail for that, but Stanley Peters' body was never found. Rob Smith reported on this story last season for APTN Investigates. He brings us this update.
Sea to Sky RCMP with a forensic team searched this property in Mount Currie, British Columbia, acting on a tip received back in May.
Information was recently received in relation to the disappearance of Stanley Peters Jr. That file has been open and ongoing in investigation since 1987 when the missing person report was received, basically just with the goal of bringing Mr. Peters home to his family.
It's been almost 40 years. The Peters family never stopped searching for answers, conducting multiple ground searches, speaking to community members, digging into court documents, parsing through the multiple tips they've received over the years.
We know a lot of what happened. We know a lot of who was there and what took place. We just don't know of his final resting place.
This is where Peters was struck by a vehicle containing 6 youths who had been partying that night. Peters was hitchhiking home. 5 years later, in February 1992, police charged 2 men, Dennis Williams with hit and run. He was convicted and spent 18 months in jail. Lawrence Pascal was found not guilty of obstruction of justice. According to Constable Bomer, even if evidence is found, no further legal action is expected.
I believe that there's any other jeopardy involved. This is strictly the missing person investigation that's being addressed here today.
Peter's daughters believe there are people in the community who know where the body is buried. At the trial, a witness told the court he saw Peter's body being dragged away from the scene by a person he could not positively identify. Peter's daughter says the family seeks no further retribution, just closure for everyone.
My heart is I want everybody to heal, and I want people to be able to move on and let it go, even the ones that know about what happened and feel that they're carrying something.
The residents of the property searched are not involved in any way. RCMP has yet to release information on what, if anything, was discovered. Rob Smith, APTN National News, Mount Currie.
The community of Sanikiluaq in Nunavut was evacuated this afternoon after an apparent gas leak just after 1:30 p.m. Eastern. It's a fly-in Inuit community located on an island in the southeast corner of Hudson Bay. We are hearing reports of tens of thousands of liters of fuel leaked near the gas station, a location that is near the community's health center. Community members grabbed what they could, some evacuating on foot while others loaded themselves on the back of quads and pickup trucks. All of them gathering miles away from town to higher ground and along the shore and at the airport. Some community members also said elders were being evacuated first. In a statement to APTN News, Daryl Martin, marketing director with the Northwest Company, a local grocery store out there, says, "Our operations team has been working with our store team ensuring everyone's safety. As of this afternoon, our staff have been temporarily relocated to higher ground as we concentrate on safety. This remains an ongoing situation, and our thoughts are with everyone in the community." NDP MP Lori Inlout also posted to Facebook saying, "I am hoping for safety and comfort for people of Sanikiluaq. I hope the gas leak they experienced forcing them to evacuate is addressed safely. I have contacted the Minister of Northern Affairs and he has provided a brief update. I have reached out to Premier PJ Agiakok as well." For more on this story, you can go to our website at aptnnews.ca. There was more backlash today over last week's announcement of funding cuts toward the search for unmarked graves. Last Friday, the feds announced future searches will be capped at $500,000 per year. About 100 people gathered on Parliament Hill to express their disgust at those cuts. The majority of the group bused to Ottawa from Six Nations of the Grand River in Ontario. They consisted of youth advocates, survivors, elders, and intergenerational victims. Some broke down in tears as they urged the federal government to rethink the decision to cut funds. On Friday, a Crown Indigenous Relations spokesperson said the cuts were a more sustainable approach to provide funding to as many community-led initiatives as possible. Laura Arndt is the executive director for the Survivors Secretariat for the Mohawk Institute Residential School. She attempted to speak to Crown Indigenous Relations and Northern Affairs Canada today to reverse their decision, but to no avail.
It was devastating for me at the Survivor Secretariat. I can't speak to what that means for the other 413 entities, people who were part of that conversation, because our voices were muted in that conversation, our mics were muted. What it means for me is that for Canada's logic, reconciliation comes with a $91 million price tag. Truth can only be told with very limited resources, and if we aren't prepared to live with it, then Canada isn't prepared to continue its work with us.
This August 17th will mark 10 years since 15-year-old Tina Fontaine's body was found in the Red River in Winnipeg. Her death sparked national outrage, renewing calls for a national inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. This year, with the help of the Saugeen Anishinaabe First Nation, Tina's great-aunt Thelma Favel is organizing a walk to honor her and all missing and murdered Indigenous peoples. Reporter Sierra Bettens has more.
For nearly a decade, Thelma Favel has kept the curtains in her living room drawn closed. She does it to stop herself from looking out the window. In her heart, she's still waiting for her grandniece, Tina Fontaine, to come home.
Not a day goes by that she's not on my mind. Like, what would she be doing today? Like, would she be a mother, or what kind of career would she had? And, you know, just stuff that parents, grandparents wish for their kids. But hers was taken away when she was 15, and she's frozen at 15.
Tina went missing in July 2014. On August 17th of that year, her body was found in the Red River, wrapped in plastic and a duvet cover. She was just 15 years old. In Favel's home, portraits of Tina, from school photos to paintings created in her honor, hang on the walls. Recently, Favel began speaking to one of the portraits.
I was sitting in my room, and her picture's above my bed. And I was looking at her, and I said, 10 years is coming up, baby. I said, what more do you want me to do?
Favel says an intense feeling washed over her, that Tina's spirit wanted her to grant one last wish.
She wanted a feast, a walk, not just for her, but for all murdered and missing women, girls, men, boys. She wants them all remembered.
Favel was determined to make Tina's wish a reality. She reached out to Madeleine Corshane, a former Sanikiluaq counselor and tireless advocate for Tina and MMIWG. She quickly jumped into action and helped organize a memorial walk in honor of Tina and all missing and murdered Indigenous peoples.
I hope that even just starting this walk on the 10th anniversary of the family of Tina Fontaine, that it sheds light to others to continue doing what they have to do.
It's happening August 17th. People are invited to the Saugeen Anishinaabe First Nation, situated 125 kilometers northeast of Winnipeg. It's Tina's home community, but it has the highest number of unsolved MMIWG cases out of any First Nation in Canada. Tina's death drove people across the country to take action, and ultimately, for the federal government to begin working on the MMIWG National Inquiry.
You see the red ribbons on bridges along, Manitoba. You see prayer walks or fires going, or, feasting going for families that are starting to engage on their own.
However, in the 5 years since the National Inquiry's call to action, Corshane says there's still much to be done.
When we lose someone or there's someone going missing, it can't just be the family. We need a unit where they will come to the family and say, we're here to help.
As the community gears up to fulfill Tina's wish, Favel has one for herself, too. After 10 years, she hopes to have the courage to open up the curtains in her living room, letting go, but never forgetting her grandniece.
This is my way of honoring Tina, to let her know that she'll never be forgotten. Like the Premier called her the face of change, in which she was. She woke up everybody.
The walk starts at 10 a.m. on August 17th, beginning at the Saugeen Catholic Church. Sierra Buttons, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Thank you, Sierra. Batoche Days in Saskatchewan recently wrapped up over the weekend. We'll bring you some of the highlights when we return in about 3 minutes. Welcome back. Lands from the historic community of St. Madeleine are one step closer to being returned to the Red River Métis. At the annual St. Madeleine Métis Days on Friday, the province and the Manitoba Métis Federation signed a memorandum of understanding to begin negotiating a 100-acre land transfer. Reporter Sierra Bettens was there and brings you this story.
Hundreds of Red River Métis traveled to the historic community of St. Madeleine for 3 days of jigging, jamming, and joy every third weekend in July. The former town, located near the Manitoba-Saskatchewan border, was home to over 200 Métis before they were forced to leave their homes. But soon, their descendants may be able to return.
This might be the first time since we own this province in our way as leadership and military that a piece of land is given back to us that was robbed from us.
On Friday, Manitoba Métis Federation President David Chartrand and Premier Wab Kinew signed a Memorandum of Understanding. The MOU will launch negotiations to give 100 acres of St. Madeleine land back to the Red River Métis. In the coming months, the province will host discussions with stakeholders, including Gambler First Nation in Treaty 4.
We're going to work with gamblers, we're going to work with other First Nations, we're going to make sure that we do this thing right. But I want to say that the goal of what we're trying to accomplish here is to right a historic wrong.
At the turn of the 20th century, about 250 Métis settled in St. Madeleine. Many were fleeing the oppression they faced following the Red River and Northwest resistances. It was a modest town with a school, church, and cemetery. But in 1939, the federal government forcibly displaced residents and burned the community to the ground for cattle farming.
It still bothers me today, this issue, and it bothers every Métis family here, that cattle, a cow, can be worth more than a Métis life.
Throughout his 27 years as president, Chartrand has heard countless heart-wrenching stories from former residents and descendants of St. Madeleine, many of whom are still longing to come home. After hearing news of the land transfer, some have already shared their visions for the future of St. Madeleine.
Already people are talking about building little cabins, they're talking about building different things in this area to start, and they want to come back because they're going to celebrate more than just once a year. And they want to come back here, but a lot of it is just in memory of their past parents and grandparents. They want to keep that memory alive so the next generation will always know the pride and also the dedication and the vigor of our people. We will never give up when we fight for something.
Kinew said the proposed 100 acres to be given to the Red River Métis is mostly Crown land. He said the next step is to talk to surrounding First Nations, towns, and stakeholders to ensure all voices are heard. Sierra Buttons, APTN National News, St. Madeleine, Manitoba.
This weekend, Métis people from across Turtle Island gathered in Batoche, Saskatchewan. This year's annual Back to Batoche Festival was filled with reflections on the past and what is to come in the future. Video journalist Rachel May attended the event.
Welcome to the top of the range. Métis from across the country came to the site of the Battle of Batoche, where the last significant battle of the Northwest Resistance took place. Métis musician J.J. LaValle debuted his new song at the opening ceremony of the Back to Batoche Festival, which celebrates the historic land. President Glenn McCallum of Métis Nation Saskatchewan attended the opening ceremony to highlight the ongoing partnerships and continued growth. He says without partnerships, it's impossible to continue to grow.
The word reconciliation. I've always said openly that's a weasel word, because everybody feels good about themselves when they talk about reconciliation, have meetings, then go home and nobody does anything. And you can prove it yourself.
Russ Marasti is the Lieutenant Governor of Saskatchewan. He is also a member of the Lac La Ronge Indian Band up north. He agrees with McCallum.
I know it's difficult times, but as President McCallum said, it's all about us sharing that load and not looking just to leadership to do it for us.
McCallum said this year there were two themes for the event.
The theme of this year's Batoche is nations coming together, and it's all nations. Our federal government, our provincial government, with the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit. We have to start somewhere, and we've been working hard here in Saskatchewan for the last 7 years.
The other theme was Kischchi Mashinaikon Ostcha Michif, the sacred document of the Michif. At the event, MNS also marked the beginning of a renewed partnership between MNS and Parks Canada. A memorandum of understanding was signed at the event to detail how the two organizations will work together to manage the Batoche National Historic Site.
We signed a new agreement where we recognize that we have to grow in some areas. We have to have a little more say in regards to how we promote our history. We're true partners.
As for what future festivals hold, McCallum says every year the event continues to grow and become better than the year before.
It's amazing, plus it feels good that we're doing the right thing to be able to be inclusive of everyone, not only Métis, but First Nations people and non-Indigenous people, to be able to be a part of that history.
Rachel May, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
A short commercial break now, but when we return, we'll take you to the East Coast where Indigenous youth are learning more about the ocean. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. While aboard the MV Polar Ice, a former icebreaker, Jason Rich was able to capture this stunning photo off the coast of Labrador near Natuashish. Thanks, Jason, for that photo. Remember, send your photo to share at aptn.ca for the chance to be our next photo of the day. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Over on the East Coast, St. John's 24, Fredericton 22. Nain 15, Nunavut 13. Val-d'Or 20, Gasp 24. Sarnia 28, Ottawa 28 as well. Sioux Lookout 21, Timmins 19. Puckatawagan 23, God's Lake 22. Winnipeg 23, Barons River 24. Swift Current 34, Yorkton 24. Buffalo Narrows 29, Stony Rapids sunny and 28 there. Northern Alberta high level 26, Peace River 24. Lethbridge 35, Edmonton 32. Tofino 17, Bella Coola 19. Prince Rupert 16, Sandspit 15. Beaver Creek 26, Dawson 28. Yellowknife 26, Norman Wells 25. Sax Harbor 6, Inuvik 21. Baker Lake 26, Cambridge Bay 10. Arctic Bay 4 and Resolute 2. For the last 3 weeks, Innu youth and community members participated with scientists on an ocean expedition. They've been surveying Innu lands and waters off the coast of Labrador. And as Angel Moore reports, they've also been providing career opportunities for Innu youth.
Yeah, that was amazing. That was my highlight. seeing some Atlantic puffins.
Jason Rich is talking about seeing Atlantic puffins off the coast of Labrador. He's one of over 20 Innu youth participating in the Innu Nation Winnipeg Ocean Expedition that offers Innu youth hands-on experience in scientific research and analysis.
I was nervous here first coming here, not knowing who is on the ship and who's coming and something like that. But when I see the people, I kind of recognize some people, same faces. It was a great experience for me.
The group is traveling on the MV Polar Prince, a former icebreaker. For 1 week, it patrolled the coast of Labrador through the Innu Nation marine zones, starting at the Shishakshit First Nation through Lake Melville, along the coast to Natwashish and back to Shishakshit. Innu community members are also on board, including lead guardian Jimmy Nuna.
The reason why this is, we're doing this expedition, I guess it's like to find out, what's out there, what's under the water in the Innu Nation marine zone. So, we can better understand, for future generations, to make decisions on what happens in this zone.
The exhibition includes visiting Muley Mountain National Park Reserve, islands, bays, and beaches, with zodiac landings, hikes, data collecting and analysis, and a dip in the water. The research is to establish a baseline marine monitoring and climate change data set, working with Innu youth to inspire careers in science and reinforce Innu nationhood.
The important thing why we're taking our youth out on this expedition is, to get the youth, outside of the, reservation, outside of the res, to get them to see more of our territory and to see that, and to see the opportunities that are out there, it's things maybe to think about, if they want to further their education,
Rich says he is thinking about studying biology so he can become an Innu scientist. He was inspired by the underwater research during the expedition.
I just want to study the rocks under the water. How the walls there, right? The walls, that they look like staircases. That's what I would like to study on the water.
It is not just about science. The beauty of the coast was inspirational for Nuna.
That's one of the things that I really wanted to see this year was a polar bear, and I got to see a polar bear. We got to see 3 polar bears, so to me that was one of the highlights. And just seeing the landscape, I was just in awe when we go on the land, and I was just in awe just being out on the land. So I was at peace when I was out on the land.
This is the second year of the expedition. A third year depends on securing funding for 2025. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Jabuktuk, also called Halifax.
Thank you, Angel. That's your national newscast for this Monday, July 22nd. From everyone at APTN National News in Winnipeg and from our reporters across the country, hi, miigwech, masicho. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow.